Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring something a bit different from my normal content. Now, as some of you may be aware, 0.6.3 PTS patch notes had been released, and for the first time we have gotten to see Wargaming's vision of the future, so to say. This includes the total removal of stealth fire and some significant carrier changes. Now, both changes have caused quite the uproar among the community, and there's a lot of uncertainty about where the game is going to go and where it's going to lead. However, luckily today we have someone with us who might be able to shed some light on this update. So why don't you introduce yourself so people who have never heard of the mysterious Sub-Octavian will know who you are?
The mysterious Sub-Octavian. Okay, hello guys. My name is Philip, and nickname is Sub-Octavian. I work obviously in Wargaming St. Petersburg in development team. I'm much into community interaction and also game analysis. I'm usually helping game designers and community to understand each other, to bring the community concerns to the game designers and vice versa. Well, I've been doing this job for like 4 years. Was in this project since alpha test. I also was organizing super tests. Used to do it, and right now, well, I'm doing my best to keep the versions fresh and interesting for everyone.
Roger, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for offering to do this Q&A. I know that, well, myself and of course the community appreciates any form of communication really, even if we don't always get the answers we're hoping for. But moving right along, why don't we start with the questions? I have divided the questions into different sections to make it easy for you to answer like one thing completely. We have a section focused on the UI, a section focused on competitive and clan battles, and we have one focused on balance, especially stealth fire and 0.6.3, and then finally we have carriers and future. So we'll start off with the simple, probably the easier stuff, the UI questions. Now, first of all, everyone has been very happy to see the clan tag appear, but a common complaint I have been seeing now is people can't even see their own names or their friends' names or their opponents' names because the clan tag is blocking the entire name. Has there been any plans to modify the scoreboard to make it more basically user-friendly?
Okay, so there are not immediate plans to address this current issue, but we usually try to collect several UI issues and then release a kind of improvement package for all of them. And I think if you feel that this thing needs addressing, you should be vocal about it. You should send your feedback. Then it will definitely get to community managers of your respective server, and then it will get to developers. Because normally this is how we find this, painful little places to be improved.
Roger.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, I will just add to this that this is appearing quite often in the feedback. So let's hope that when we have a next round of UI improvements, this will find its way there as well.
Indeed. Talking about future UI improvements, another question that was brought forward to me was any chance of reworking the radio communication? Something, for example, like Battlefield or War Thunder, where people had access to more preset voice messages. One very common request has been the ability to warn allies that you are launching torpedoes.
That's a very good question because, half an hour ago, I was approached by our UI specialist, who was assigned actually with the task of creating a list of radio commands improvements.
Oh.
And I just had a talk about it, yeah. And I promised him to fetch everything I can find throughout the community about this. Okay, so we're planning to address the radio commands. They have been in the game for quite a long time, and actually, of course, they need improving. We are thinking about several new features, like you said, about interaction with your consumables and armament. And also we're thinking about some new level of interaction with minimap, so you can give some contextual radio commands. But obviously these features are like in the very early design. So we would be very happy to actually hear more suggestions and more ideas that community feels important to be added to radio commands. And I think probably if we are lucky, we can do some improvements, somewhere in summer, probably in one of the summer updates.
Oh, well, that sounds very good. I assume when you mean with consumables, you mean, for example, when you activate defensive AA, you get a voice message that this guy is activating it, or activating Hydro and a voice message about that, for example.
Yeah, like this. The most challenging part of it is to actually introduce something that people really need and use, because earlier we used to introduce some UI features, some small UI things, and then we discovered that very little % of players actually use them. But on the other hand, sometimes we really hit the target and players appreciate some improvements like smoke timer. I think
Yes.
it is accepted quite well, and previous stuff like actually customizable minimap and so on. So we really want to hit the target with this one. We want to add the features that you will use. That's why I would be very happy to hear all the ideas, suggestions, so we can determine the best ones and to realize them, to implement them in the game.
Okay, fantastic. Another common question is the chat UI features. In this case, blacklist actually blocking people. For now, if you blacklist someone, they can still spam you with division invites, and muted or, well, ignored players can still spam the in-game commands we just spoke of. This is a pretty common troll tactic. Is there any plans on updating these options, these possibilities?
Well, I'm ashamed to say that I'm not aware of this problem, and I think it's quite specific. So I would be very happy if you send me the detailed description afterwards. And when I will talking with the AI team, I'll definitely pass this to them and see what they can do. Because I was not trolled this way. Usually, people just swear at me in private messages, and this is it.
Yeah, I'm personally a streamer, so it's quite often someone who appears on stream, they constantly spam the message, and even if you right click and mute them, the messages still go through since they are not counted as part of the chat. So it's a pretty common troll tactic, at least on EU. I don't know, it might be different over there.
It might be more frequent on EU also because of the mix of languages, so instead of finding out which language you should swear in, you just spam it.
That is true. Moving on, final question about the UI. The port UI, it is a rather bad experience, to put it lightly. It feels quite laggy, every action takes a few seconds to load. If you spam actions, you can even freeze the client. Chat messages can appear or disappear how they feel like. Context list, you don't really know if they're offline or not. Sometimes it shows online people as offline. Is there any plans on a UI overhaul, especially the port UI?
Well, there are definitely plans to continue the optimization. It's not very shiny, probably things to say, but it used to be worse. Actually, we're trying to find all ways to optimize different aspects, like mounting and demounting stuff to the ships, like switching between panels and so on and so on. I think several performance tweaks will be introduced. This is quite high priority for us, and we are fully aware of that it's not running as smoothly as they want. So
Indeed.
We will improve this, definitely.
Okay, that's good to hear. Moving on, competitive and clan-focused questions. Will there in the future be any option to choose where you will spawn in training rooms? Because right now a very common complaint when doing any sort of clan battles or trainings and such is that because of the randomized spawn, you might have to throw out the strategy you prepared in advance simply because the spawns don't favor you at all.
Well, here I can only take a note of this because the production quality training rooms are still to be introduced to the game, because currently we are working with some kind of crash solution, and they are not working properly. Obviously, lots of problems with current training rooms, so it's a good note to add to the full functionality. I'll just try to remember this or even write it down somewhere. but I definitely don't know whether it is already planned to this feature.
Talking about training rooms, well, the next question that was asked, a very much asked question was, when do you think that the training room will become a part of the client, as it has been pretty much a mandatory mod for any sort of competitive gameplay for as long as I can remember, really.
That's fully understandable, but unfortunately I cannot give you ATA on this feature. Sorry.
Yep, that's fine. Clan system. When will we see an expansion of the current clan system? Because right now it's only limited to 30 slots, and we understand it's still quite early in it, but this 30 slots is quite limiting for many teams. For example, we have on EU, we have a German clan called MDiv who has like 7 different MDivs because they have so many members and the 30 slots is nowhere near enough.
Well, it's a very rightful question. We are aware that some large communities can have communities or clans or teams, can have some problems with this limitation. Actually, the initial limitation was connected with our design for future clan combat and clan aspects, but right now we're readdressing it, and we actually would be very happy to add an option to expand the clan, but it will be connected. It won't be a feature by itself. It will be connected to the next step of clan development because, as you probably already know, we're planning to do clans in 4 steps, and the first step was this simple social functionality that we already have in client, like creating clan, managing clan, and so on. The second step would be some kind of casual clan gameplay where you will be able to play along with your clan teammates without much, strain, much training sessions, just to play casually, but to have some profit, some clan profit from it. And the third step would be probably competitive clan combat. And the fourth step would be some kind of clan meta gameplay with some politics, alliances, and so on. So expansion of clan limit would be probably connected with the second step, and we are working on this step right now. It is not even in design; it's already in production. So I'm not sure how many updates will it take to implement it properly, but we're on it, and I hope you will see it in some foreseeable future.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm glad I decided to cluster these questions about the same feature because the very next question was about clan battles and when will Wargaming start sponsoring and organizing and running clan competitions and such things. But apparently, this is something that is already in production in the future.
Yeah, well, the point why we divided this in 4 steps because we don't want clans to be exclusively useful for only one small group of players. We want hardcore players to have their fun in the clans. At the same time, we want regular players to have some reason to go into clan, because I think overall all clan system and all clan community will only profit if there are more clans and more clan players. So this is why we're introducing simple social at step 1, and then we just want to grab more people and to actually attract them to a clan system. And then after it, there will be some more hardcore competitive environment.
Roger, that's good to hear. Finally, about this ranked season, how did you guys over at Wargaming see this current ranked season? Because the overall opinion I have seen from the player base has been probably the most negative about any season so far. Radar being only limited to premium ships left a bit of a sour taste, and many got the feeling that this entire ranked season felt more like a cash grab than an enjoyable experience. How did you over at Wargaming feel this ranked season went?
Well, it's rather controversial. I can share my personal impressions and then our team impressions. So, my personal impressions, I actually managed to rank at first rank this time, and this was my first time I actually did this, and had the the patience and power to go the full way. Probably right now my most enjoyable gameplay is brawling in battleships or in cruisers, and this is why I was not very comfortable all the time, because people used to play very carefully in ranked battles because the cost of mistake is too high, and there are actually limited number of ships in your team. So if you're brawling too courageously, you're probably going to let your team down. Indeed. So this was always just holding me back, and actually, I personally would be very happy to see more brawling and more close combat and more open fire, some shootouts in ranked battles. But actually, this is in people's psychology also, because when the cost of mistake is high, you probably mostly will be very careful. As for team impressions, it's rather controversial, because in terms of audience, in terms of involvement, the percentage of players who participated, who ranked out, and so on, this actually is the best season.
Oh.
And well, but that doesn't mean that actually it was the best season ever, because yes, we also hear all this feedback. So what we're going to do now, we're going to analyze deeply the statistics we have, because what I was talking about is audience performance stats. They are preliminary. We have to analyze them deeper, and then we are going to introduce a survey, probably for all participants. We are working on this survey right now, and we really want to hear all players' opinion, because actually, yes, we heard many opinions on ranked battles, but that was from the vocal part of the audience, and we want to have the biggest picture we can get. And then after it, we'll hopefully be able to make several improvements, so the next season will be more successful in terms of audience and will be perceived better by the player base. So this is our plan right now.
That sounds good. Assuming you're still waiting for a lot of feedback, you probably have no idea what tier the next ranked season is going to be.
Actually, we already have several ideas about this, but I think it's too early to speak about this, because we don't have full picture right now, because we didn't conduct survey yet and we didn't get the full stats.
Roger. Thank you for that.
Since I will just interject, because since Phil mentioned that he managed to get to rank 1, congratulations. I have given up 2 days ago because it just wasn't fun on the above rank 5.
Yeah, that's actually a very common complaint about this ranked season, is that it has been very smoke focused and very passive, and people haven't really been enjoying it.
The smoke wasn't really that much of a problem, like people not willing to close into the smoke, because theoretically Belfast sitting in a smoke is an easy target, but someone has to go and get it, and
yes.
Yeah.
That's very funny, because I was approaching rank 5 with as far as I remember, with battleships mostly and with Shiratsura. And then a friend of mine, actually, this is a girl, and she ranks out with first rank every time. So she's like very hardcore player. And she tricked me into using Belfast. She said, well, it will be very easy for you, go on, and so on. And I've tried to use Belfast in the highest league. And actually I was stuck with it. Then another friend of mine tricked me into using Scharnhorst again. And then I just flew to rank 1 very quickly. And this, actually, my personal conclusion is, no matter the meta game is, you have to play what you like to play. Because this way you probably will perform better, and you will at least enjoy the game, because you'll be playing the ship you really love. So that's my personal conclusion.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, if you're playing something you don't enjoy and you lose, it gets even more frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Balance, and especially we're going to focus on the stealth fire questions. But first of all, are there any plans to modify the special modules that can currently be obtained through ranked or super container? Most players see these consumables as quite worthless, and as far as I can tell, the only one I personally use is the speed bonus one that increases the speed consumable from 2 to 3 minutes. The other ones, the community isn't too happy about them. Any plans on changing this?
We would be very happy to reassess them, but for this we actually need some more time, because we need more people to have the ability to mount these. So we're waiting for rank battle rewards, for more container rewards. Then we have a tool to see statistically what modules are being used mostly and what are obsolete. And then we'll be able to determine which are to be buffed. I'm not saying that the only statistics matters here, because actually, of course, we can hear feedback about these modules, but these are personal opinions, because you mentioned that you're using Speed Boost consumable. I think you're totally right. This is probably one of the best of new modules, and it has no downsides at all. But actually, I can say that I'm using personally. So I mounted defensive AA on my Grozavoy, because I try to play it like Universal Destroyer. I'm not trying to cover my team with AA, and longer AA duration defensive fire actually lets me protect myself from carrier attacks. So it's rather situational, but I find it very helpful. I also mounted probably radar upgrade on Des Moines, because even without radar shift upgrade and concealment upgrade, Des Moines has quite long radar time, and is greatly improved by percentage from this module. I think it's quite useful. And I also remember using hydroacoustic search on German destroyers, and sometimes I'm even thinking about using repair party, I think, or damage control party on American battleships, because they have quite large work time of this consumable, and the module benefits them greatly. You basically have the immunity from fire and flooding for extended period of time. But that's only personal opinion. Of course, to determine what to do with these modules, we need not only hear your feedbacks, but also see what actually people are using. Because quite often people can, for example, give initial bad feedback, and then just, have a taste of these modules, and they are finding some ways to use it properly.
Indeed. So the short answer is waiting for more feedback before deciding anything.
Not only feedback, but actually the statistics of use of these modules. So what modules are thrown to the trash bin, and what modules are valued and used, and actually mounted on ships, because this is the most important part.
Okay, thank you. Now, the big one. Wargaming themselves have said that they they see a bit of an issue with the battleship population being too high, but as of 0.6.3 we will see the removal of stealth fire entirely, and of course the ships that are greatly affected by this are of course the destroyers and the cruisers, and this of course these are the two battleship counters, you might say, and in general the community, at least on EU and NA, has seen this entire patch as a very large battleship buff. So my question is, what is the goal with this removal? What is the goal with removing the stealth fire if the issue is already a too large battleship population?
Well, I think unfortunately I'm going to get lots of people angry by my answer here, because it's not that easy. But anyways, let's get to it. So the ultimate goal of removal of stealth fire is actually removal of mechanics that makes the whole game, not only battleships game or cruisers game, whatever, less enjoyable. We don't think that stealth firing, I mean when you're firing open water and direct line of sight, and the target cannot see you and cannot do anything, absolutely anything, is not a good mechanics. We used to let it into game because we did not see much of a problem, but with time we actually saw that it became one of this annoying stuff. Well, probably it's quite good to stealth fire when you don't have any chance to be shot in return, but for the targets it's not very fun. Moreover, this tactics sometimes is not too efficient, because people used to do it from the longest range, and actually this is not active play. I think it's more of passive play, really. On the other hand, currently from all the feedbacks we can see, I would split the stealth firing controversy probably in two groups. The first group are really players who really stealth fire, who actually made these tactics integral part of their gameplay, and they are upset because, well, they feel that like we are removing their expertise and making them learn something different, and they don't like it. I can fully understand this, but unfortunately, as developers who are responsible for the whole game and for the whole player base, we don't think that this tactics should be in the game. On the other hand, the second group are the users who actually don't stealth fire often, or who don't stealth fire at all, but they feel affected by this change because gun bloom currently will be raising up to your maximum firing distance, and they feel this won't be comfortable for them. And this part of this group of players are much larger than the first one. And actually, we're quite concerned about the comfort of the game for them. This is why right now we are researching, as I said before we get to the interview, that's what I'm busy with my colleagues. We're researching the PTS data, PTA's feedbacks, and we're trying to understand whether it's a real issue and how to address it, if we need to address it right now. So the question of this change is not over yet. We're definitely going to study it more and to take some actions. And probably there's also the third group of players. They complain not about the mechanics in general, but about their favorite ships, like people who say that Akizuki, for example, will be unplayable without these mechanics, or I don't know, Bliskawica will be unplayable with these mechanics, without these mechanics, and so on. As for these kind of players, we introduced several buffs, preliminary buffs in 063 for the ships that we felt will need these buffs to stay competitive and to stay enjoyable with the change. However, that doesn't mean that we are not going to address other ships. Actually, in whatever state the changes will hit release, we'll be monitoring ship statistics over 063, and if we find any ships that really became less enjoyable, that will lose much of their combat efficiency, we'll definitely address them in the nearest version, because no one is interested in having unplayable ships. It's bad for the players, it's bad for the game, it's bad for everything. So I think I was able to give the overview of the situation for now.
Roger. The next question was, in fact, about ships that are especially reliant on it. Examples, of course, Akizuki and, for example, Chapayev. And, well, the hopes are that this will be indeed addressed, because the Chapayev, for example, would suffer quite greatly since it has no smoke like the Kutuzov to hide behind. But moving on, what about premium ships, where stealth fire was explicitly advertised as a key feature of the ship? For example, the Bliska, who was advertised as a stealth firing ship. Will owners of these premiums be compensated, or will the ship itself be modified to compensate for this?
Well, as for ship modification, I can only repeat what I said, that we are not interested in worsening any current ships greatly. Probably if Zhao becomes less powerful, that will be alright, but because she's way too powerful right now. But as for other ships like Bliska, Akizuki, and so on, some of them are strong, some of them are just very good, some of them are normal. We are not interested in lowering their combat efficiency. This change is not intended as a nerf to them. So if they actually show some drop in their combat efficiency, it will be addressed. We cannot do this in advance for all ships because, for example, Bliskawica is quite powerful destroyer, and we are confident that she will be played to great effect without stealth firing. But it's it's our theoretical opinion. If we buff it right now, if we buff her right now, we risk of getting overpowered ship after the update, because we can buff her and she may retain her combat efficiency. That's why we are waiting with it until the next version, and it's better to view the ship performance after the update is released and then to make a decision to buff or not to buff. But for some of the ships, like for Akizuki, we were able to determine that preliminary buff would be fine. For example, we are giving more basic fire range for Akizuki. For some, I think for some player builds that will actually free up 4 captain points from advanced fire and training, because her base range will be quite good without it, and with all range upgrades she will be able to fire like 15 kilometers, which may be useful or not useful depending on your playstyle. As for advertising, that's a tricky question because I cannot be, 100% confident. I'm always checking the advertising and descriptions of premium ships on Russian region, but I'm not responsible for other regions. But we never ever advertised any premium ships like stealth firing in Russian region because, it didn't make sense. We always treated these mechanics like marginal one, very situational, and we did not want to balance or advertise any ship around these particular mechanics. But probably, well, I need to see the proof that any ship was advertised like this on premium shop, because that would be very strange things to do, in my opinion.
Roger. Well, it was a highly upvoted comment on Reddit. I assume the link can be found there. We can look at that later. But
well, I saw the comment too, because I'm making Reddit Q&A and I'm watching Reddit forums all the time. But actually, I was not able to see any proof. And then I checked the premium shop, I think on American premium shop and Russian premium shop, and found no evidence of it. And actually, this would make sense because whenever we release premium ship, we always come with, not only marketing guys are writing these descriptions. We are always come with game designers and try to see what strengths and weaknesses actually of premium ship we should advertise, so that players can choose it properly and to enjoy it. Okay. So I don't think stealth firing was officially advertised on premium shop. It's very, very hard to believe.
Roger. With the removal of open sea stealth fire, what will you do to encourage destroyers to actually use their guns? In the current game, battleships can seriously hurt destroyers just having their AP shells loaded. In fact, they don't even need to switch to HE anymore because AP penetrations usually do more damage. Is there any plans to perhaps force battleships to at least switch to HE damage to actually effectively deal with DDs? Or any other plans to encourage the gun use?
Well, this question again implies that stealth firing is an integral and very important part of destroyer gameplay. That's an opinion I can respect. But on the other hand, I do play my own game too. I play destroyers, battleships, and cruisers on different tiers. Have lots of ships in my port, and I don't play stealth fire, never. So I cannot agree that this is a so important part. But anyways, as I already said, we are not going to nerf destroyers or cruisers. We really don't want to nerf these classes. And these mechanics removal is not about class balance. It's more about, logical and user-friendly gameplay. This is why, as I said, we're studying PTS right now, and we have several ideas about destroyer survivability under fire from the distance. We're checking them internally. I think if we manage to agree on the solution, you will see it in the next step of PTS if we actually have all evidence that we need to do something. So don't expect us to ignore all feedback. This would be wrong. We actually looking at it, and we are trying to find the reason and some means to improve this version.
Okay, moving on. German destroyers. What does Wargaming think about the current state of the German destroyers? Because currently, thanks to the stealth firing, they never really were able to do it, but they have a very short smoke duration, which is right now the only way they can really reliably deal damage, since they aren't fast or agile enough to dodge shells. Especially certain ships, for example the tier 1 and the lower tier German DDs, are quite unpopular with the player base. Are there any plans to change this?
Okay, so obviously with stealth fire removal, one of the problems of the whole alliance is removed as well, because their gun bloom is no longer more than their firing range. Actually, this was made on purpose because we were planning to remove stealth fire, and we did not want more players actually to get used to stealth firing on new line and then to suffer the loss. But now they will be fine in this aspect. As for particular ships, we clearly saw some negative feedback and actually not very good performance of Z-52, the top German destroyer, and we were buffing her in 063. We were thinking about how should we address her, and actually, we decided to buff her concealment. So with full concealment spec, Z-52 will be able to have concealment of 6.1 kilometers, which we hope will make her more competitive in close combat fight with such concealment masters as Shimakaze and Gearing, and give her more strength. If it is not enough, we'll definitely see it over the next month and make some other buffs. As for other ships, well, low-tier German destroyers actually perform very good. We studied the whole line after release, and they are not to be buffed currently in any way. We're still thinking about T-52 because she's usually addressed as, kind of black sheep or by the players, that she's not very comfortable and she does not offer anything great, any great experience. So we're still researching this ship. And as for ships from tier 6 to tier 9, well, basically I cannot say that they need buffing right now.
Well, one of the most common complaints is the Z23, where the so-called gun upgrade actually feels like a bit of a downgrade, since it limits your range to 10.8 km on the 150mm guns, which is seen as quite ridiculous by many, since these are the guns that are used on many cruisers as well.
We're not very big fans of adding multi-caliber choice on one ship, and these guns were actually made to accommodate some historical accuracy, but these destroyers are not meant to be played only with these guns. So it's just an option. Some people probably like it, but as you obviously know, these guns are present only on 2 destroyers in the line. We did not give this caliber to top destroyers, and this was done on purpose. So it's just kind of option, and some people may utilize it, but I think the regular caliber is the workhorse of this line.
Okay. Moving on, talking more about the Germans. The tier 8 is the universal competitive tier, at least in Europe. And a very common source of complaints is the Hipper / the Prince Eugen. It is seen as honestly very underwhelming compared to the other cruisers. Is there any plans to address this cruiser, as it seems to have been in the same state for quite a long time?
So you're going to say that New Orleans actually is now more competitive?
New Orleans, because of the radar, has been seeing more competitive play than Hipper has.
Okay, I think this question actually worth researching. I was not aware of any, really deep underperforming of these cruisers, but I would be very happy to address it. And if it is true, well, I think we could do something about it, of course.
Yes, well, the power struggle at T8 cruiser-wise is the Kutuzov is, of course, #1 with the addition of IFHE. And Chapayev is quite close behind because of radar, and then we have Otago, and after that we probably have New Orleans thanks to the radar, and then we have Hipper and New Orleans Hipper and Mogami quite far behind.
Well, that's very interesting because you're talking about kind of separate environment that is actually, of course, it is tied to the game, but it's separate at the same time, because in competitive play, well, I'm not the one who will be teaching you about competitive. You know that people will be maxing everything they can. Indeed. And this environment really differs from the usual gameplay. And the trick is that right now we don't have any variables in balance between different modes. So we have the same ships on all servers in all game modes, in cooperative and ranked, in random battles, and in competitive.
Of course. My point was merely
so that was the challenge. That is the challenge actually. Because, yeah, but I'll definitely.
My point was merely that ranked tends to mirror the extremes of randoms. If something is very strong in ranked, it's unlikely that it will be weak in randoms either. and the Hipper Eugen kind of are in the situation where people don't enjoy playing them too much in randoms either, because well, they don't really seem to have any real strength, like for example the other lines.
I see your point, and I like it. So, as I promised, I will research this when I have time, and we'll see what we can do about this ship.
Right. Moving on, back to.
I will just jump in quickly again, because I'm just now looking at the stats from actually this ranked season. For this, because the competitive scene is kind of different often compared to the live server. Because, for example, on live server or in random battles, the Soviet destroyers are quite actually enjoyable, but obviously in ranked they suffer quite a lot because they don't have basically torpedoes in that environment and cannot really do the stuff that destroyers need to do in ranked. So
that is true.
Sometimes simply ships that are okay in randoms just cannot really translate this extreme advantage.
That is a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. But Hipper Eugen, they never really have any real considerable strength for them, which is of course what the issue is considered. Like they don't have their thing. The only thing really considered is German hydroacoustic search, and that kind of where it ends.
Well, the turtleback armor deck also kind of helps in close combat against other cruisers. But again, yeah, in competitive, it's harder to use it effectively.
Indeed. But we've gotten a bit off the road.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. With the new stealth fire nerf, some cruisers actually have a shooting concealment penalty that is apparently worse than battleships. Now, as someone who plays all the ships, that does not make sense to me. Have you perhaps considered other ways of addressing the detection increases? I've seen plenty of suggestions being put forth on Reddit. For example, a bloom that starts reducing linearly down to your normal detection range, or perhaps a different time of detection depending on what ship you are. Like a battleship shooting is spotted for 20 seconds, a DD is spotted for 7, or something similar.
Actually, the idea about variable gun bloom time dependent on caliber or class or something else was quite popular. We noticed it almost immediately, and we actually worked this idea out. So let me tell you about the point of having this penalty in the first place, to be clear. This penalty, 20 seconds fire penalty, is intended not to let people play, some kind of weird discotheque. When they will shoot, then just stop shooting, actually disappear, and then don't actually give their enemies any reaction time to actually aim and shoot back. So this is why this 20-second penalty was introduced in the first place. And why we like it to be universal across all classes and calibers is because when people actually try to master the game, they sometimes they master some mechanics intuitively. And one of these tricks is to, if you're under heavy fire, just stop shooting for some period of time and you'll disappear. This mechanics works, and it works mostly because it is universal, 20 seconds. We are thinking about changing these numbers. Actually, not more, I think not lowering them for cruisers and destroyers, but rather making them higher for battleships. And we will think about it more, but this is not a feature for 063. Okay. But at least we're happy that we noticed this suggestion, because even if we don't like it for some reasons as it was presented, actually it gave us some new thoughts, and as I said, we'll be researching this more. This could be interesting variable for balancing ships, but again, it's very important not to hurt learning curve of the game.
Okay, well, I guess that's some hope inspiring, because the current, we shall wait and see. I have to say, I am one of the skeptics of the new system, so we will have to wait and see. Moving on to a ship that I myself have played a lot, the Shimakaze. Now, I really love this ship, but it really seems to suffer in the current meta. And in fact, seeing the introduction of the improved stealth on the Z52, it seems to be in an even worse position because, well, you can't really contest any caps because everyone can outgun you. Your torps are too easy to be dodged in a knife fight. Is there any plans to perhaps address the way the Shimakaze plays for perhaps better concealment or something similar?
You mean F3 torps are easy to dodge? Really?
Well, yes, because if you want to get close enough to actually torp someone that they can't avoid them, you will die on the way in.
Well, the Shimakaze is currently the second performing tier 10 destroyer, I can say.
Based on what though?
Actually, we have quite interesting tool that analyzes not the average stats, because obviously Shimakaze is one of the most popular tier 10 destroyers, and her average stats sometimes drop because of that, because more and more players were used to play her, and well, the more players ship usually has, the worse average stats we see. But we have a tool that actually calculates the statistics of worst 5%, the best 5%, and the median. And in this respect, Shimakaze shows the second results in terms of experience and damage. But again, you cannot always compare ships by absolute damage, because obviously Shimakaze was intended as heavy ship destroyer, so she needs to have high damage numbers because she has to shoot at battleships that have lots of HP and so on. This issue of comfortably and competitively playing Shimakaze and other Japanese destroyers is not over. We're introducing some buffs like flooding damage that actually increased damage output a bit for these types of ship, because their torpedoes are the most, have the most high flooding chance. But I don't think it's over yet, because we have still to look at these ships and find some more ways to probably address them. Right now in 063 we are increasing firing range for these ships. Actually, they have quite decent artillery. I think it's not very useful in close fight because they just don't have the probably DPM and time to rotate their guns properly, but they have decent arcs and they have decent high explosive shells. So we're hoping that increasing this range will allow some players to use their guns more and to use these guns on comfortable distance, because on high distance it's not too easy to hit a Japanese destroyer compared to other destroyers. They have quite low profile, and if we actually tie this to good arcs and good HE, well, it may be a decent buff, but we are not sure about it. So we'll be monitoring these ships after 063 to determine what else can we improve to actually make them more enjoyable. Because yes, we see this feedback all the time and we want to address it. And by the way, what's your opinion on what actually prevents you from enjoying this ship?
What actually prevents me? It's very hard to it's very hard to have any sort of consistency in it. If you end up with a passive enemy, it's very hard to be consistent because you have to. Well, the problem is you have your gun power. Because you rely more on torpedoes than guns. On the gearing, you can consistently, for example, farm damage. You smoke up with the huge USDD smokes, you can farm damage with your guns. Your torpedoes are massive 16 km range. You don't even have to close into danger areas like radar areas. Whereas Khabarovsk, of course, once again can farm consistent damage. You will rarely have a bad game in either of those. But in Shimakaze, if you happen to get unfortunate with your torpedoes, you are in for a rough time, because the torpedoes are so easily spottable, because they have 1.9 km spotting range. And of course, if you want to use the F3 torps, which used to be my favorites, you have to put yourself into radar risk, and it's rarely worth it these days, especially with the passivity we're seeing. And of course, the addition of all the hydroacoustic search on battleships especially means that there's even more advanced warning about your torps arriving. And well, the lack of consistency is really the biggest issue with the Shimakaze. In fact, you can go from games where you do 10k damage to games where you do 150. Seems to be no real consistency in playing it.
Well, you're comparing it to gearing, and I think gearing is very strong boat, so it's very hard to match. But just a fun fact for you, I'm just looking up the EU statistics for 062, and I'm looking at top 5% of players of gearing and Shimakaze, and you know their average damage of top 5% is like 132,000 of damage on gearing and 133,000 on Shimakaze. So they actually perfectly match each other in
What is
terms
it
of
on Fletcher?
in terms of best results. So I have to look it up a bit later,
Yeah.
but I can see it as well.
Yeah, that's of course
So
another.
on Fletcher is Fletcher on like 114.
Okay.
So it's still better. But that actually means that probably in the very good, when played to the very best strength, these ships can be comparable. But definitely, I won't argue this that average statistics of Shimakaze is worse than gearing. So she's less universal, and probably she's less consistent, as you said. This is why we probably will be addressing her and other Japanese destroyers more. But we need to do it very carefully, because I think no one in the sense wants the return of these walls of skill. Actually, we used to have a long time ago.
Yes, I remember Ocean with Shimakazes and 20 km torps, the nightmares. I do remember that. Anyway, what about the tier 10 cruiser balance? Are you satisfied with the way it is? A common scapegoat for the community is the Hindenburg, a ship that I personally very much enjoy, but it was a highly upvoted question. How are you feeling about the current T10 cruiser balance?
Well, honestly, I think the main, probably the only real problem was the Zao. Because, trollish armor, very good high explosive, the ability to have good stealth firing corridor, the torpedoes, all these factors actually are leading her to be the very ultimate best cruiser for all situations. Because probably they are more strong in some specific roles, but Zhao,
Strong
actually.
at everything.
Yeah, this is what you were talking about consistency. So she's able to perform in almost all situations to do something. But the discrepancy is not very high between tier 10 destroyers and cruisers. Sorry, and I think that maybe with the changes of 063, the situation will change a bit, and then we'll see. We are planning to do a couple of tweaks about tier 9 and 10 cruisers, but we'll see about it.
Okay, moving on. Carriers. With the removal of alt attacks on carriers, tier 4 and 5, those ships will of course inflict a lot less damage even in capable hands. Now I assume one of the reasons it was added was to prevent the seal clubbing, but will these particular carriers will be compensated otherwise, as they will obviously be a lot weaker now? Also, do you fear that removing this aspect of the gameplay will prevent people from advancing, as they will find basically the ships too overly simplified to be enjoyable?
Well, it's another very huge and interesting question. First thing I want to say that any changes that we are seeing to carriers in this version may even not reflect the concepts we are working on, because these changes are actually made to make the current CVs better. Oh, yeah. But it's not rework, as you can see. We are adding some new features, fixing some issues that been bothering CV players, and balancing them on low tiers. But it's not rework. And as for future changes, we are testing and developing several concepts. Some of them are more careful, some of them are bold, and we'll definitely need your help with, players' help with testing them further on PTSs. But that will be sometime later, because right now we're not ready to present them to public yet. Anyways, these changes are designed to help the current situation with carriers. The American torpedo bombers will be compensated through more consistent and better automatic attack, so that the efficiency don't drop dramatically because of this change. As for Japanese, we don't feel any need to compensate them. And as for learning, actually many players who are against this change of removal of manual drop, they are very experienced players, and their opinion really matters, but I think that they are not viewing the game from the novice point of view, usually. They are viewing it from their experience when they know actually much about game mechanics. They are used to using these mechanics. And if we see the game from novice perspective, absolute novice, or novice who just never tried carriers before, we think that actually being seal clubbed by tier 4 carrier who knows how to strafe and to out attack is not very good. Because with this change, new CV players will be able to learn the basics of CVs over level 4 and 5. And then yes, then they will face more difficult meta with more anti-air ships, but at this point they also will be actually confident with basic controls, principles of squadron controls, air recon, and so on. Well, this is to be determined. Unfortunately, there is no absolutely adequate and reliable way to predict it. With 100% accuracy, but we hope this will actually benefit the new CV players. And as for other players, the point is that on these tiers, many ships have not very decent anti-air, and this is like it was made historically accurate, and we cannot mount very powerful guns on all these small ships, and then they got seal clubbed constantly by the players who just want easy targets, low experience targets. Well, we cannot support this attitude.
Indeed. That is understandable, but latching on to something you said about tier 5s then facing tier 6, will tier 5 carriers have protected matchmaking? Because I can assume that it will not be a very enjoyable experience to end up against a tier 6 carrier on the enemy team who is obviously able to strafe your planes and so forth, able to use the alt attacks.
That will be not very pleasant experience, but we have to actually remember that you cannot face tier 6 carrier alone. No. If you're facing it, you have tier 6 in your team and you have tier 5 in the enemy team. Now, I'm not trying to convince you that will be very easy and that your fellow comrades will always help you and so on. But actually, when you're facing like Fiji on Omaha, you are not very comfortable as well. But you see that enemy team has 12 ships, and you try to pick the easiest targets for you. If you're up tiered, and if you are down tiered, well, then you are the king, and you're picking all targets you can. So we know about this concern. We will be monitoring it, and if this concern is justified, we will act. But right now, we think that risks of breaking the CV balance with this are absolutely not high. But we know about this, and we're reading your feedbacks. And actually, this issue was raised internally when the changes were designed, and we decided that that will work. And these concerns are not justified right now.
Okay. Moving on, of course, there is the new mechanic of being able to strafe out of a fighter lock. A fighter lock, of course, means when your fighters are engaged with enemy fighters. In the past, there was no way to get out of it. Now you can strafe out of it. The question is, why does the Saipan not lose any planes when doing this?
Because this exception is made because it would be too painful for Saipan. Because of the number of planes in squadron. This is not actually the point of protecting premium ship. That's the point of protecting a ship with the specific composition of squadron. Actually too few planes. So this mechanic would hurt the Saipan extremely if we applied it with the full strength.
You are not afraid it will give it a bit too much of leeway?
Well, we're definitely hoping it won't. But again, nothing is set in stone. And if we see it, actually, we may act. Because, as I said, changing any mechanics, introducing some mechanics that affect the whole game, sometimes happens. And premium ships, we try not to affect them in any negative way when possible, but sometimes we have to do it. So if anything will be broken in terms of balance, we may readdress it. But right now we think that due to a low number of planes in squadron, that will be a fine solution.
Well, one of the questions asked by, well, most of the main carrier players in my clan is, what is Wargaming's vision for carriers in this game beyond 0.6.3? Now, I'm not asking for any specific details, what you possibly cannot say or can say, but a general idea of where you wish to head with the carriers. What's the future of carriers in World of Warships?
Well, we probably sometimes we're notorious for bringing some very strong ideas and forcing them to players. But I should say that when I mentioned carrier rework, I also said that we have to work some concept and to present it to players, because this rework, this future, is not formed only by us. It will be formed by players. Because we can have some very wonderful concept for carriers, and then players just, it won't work in real life. This is why all this talk about future carrier work is very, very preliminary right now. I can say that we're thinking in different directions, and these are only the examples of what we are thinking about. So please don't take it, as something that is set in plans and will be implemented in any way. But we are thinking about several interesting features for carriers, like actually replenishing your hangar in battle, like making not very efficient and stupid automatic attack and very skill dependent and very different manual attack, making one type of attack instead, but with variable difficulty. So there is one type of attack, but skilled players can do this one type of attack in more skilled way and have better results, and novice can do it easier and have worse results. Well, just like actually aiming your guns. So you have the same guns as your opponent, but it's the way you aim, compensate for target movement, and choose the right shell, and this is the result. So we're thinking about making this universal attack with variable difficulty. So it will be skill dependent, but universal, because we don't feel that having two absolutely different types of attack really helps the learning curve. This is why I said that current CV changes are not rework. They're just intended to make the current situation better. But we have some interesting plans for the future. And also we're thinking about AA mechanics, because currently we see that anti-air sometimes tends to be very black and white. Either you actually shoot down many planes or you don't shoot anything down. If you have some very weak anti-air, as you know, planes don't have HP right now. RNG based with some frequency of shooting down the plane. This is why the squadron actually can go to you. If you have weak AA, you can shoot at it like for 30 seconds, then it goes out of your range and it's not damaged.
Full HP basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's full HP. On the other hand, when different ships with weak AA try to order, they're not very efficient either, because each of them has their own separate RNG generator assigned to the squadron they're shooting at, and this is why it's not very efficient. So we're thinking also about AA mechanics to make it more consistent, more predictable, so actually carriers will be able to control better, and actually those who are protecting from CVs will be able to predict some results either. So these are some thoughts that we have and some concepts we work on. How many of these concepts will make to any kind of public test? Well, I don't know right now, but we're thinking in these directions. And also, of course, we're thinking about balancing loadouts better, if I may say so, because I definitely think you are going to ask this question. Yes, we are thinking about balancing loadouts better, but actually, with all these changes we have in mind, that will seem like rather small change.
Okay,
But
well,
but important as well.
indeed. Of course, midway loadouts and such are quite common questions, or in general, U.S. carrier loadouts are a common thorn, so to say. I know that IGN carriers are much more popular right now, at least in any sort of skilled hands. But of course, the averages might differ since, as far as I know, the US ships are easier to play. But you will be looking at loadouts, as you said, and of course, if you are removing RNG, I assume that's something that will make a lot of people happy because the whole RNG-ness of Antier is very hard to play around since you always get unpredictable results. Anyway, that was all the questions I had about carriers, so now we go things about the future. How satisfied are you guys over at Wargaming with the new skill tree? Are there any more plans or any more changes planned for it in the future? I will mention that I personally really like the new skill tree, except for RPF. But other than that, there's a lot more variety, and I've enjoyed it. How is it at your end?
Oh, finally, the question I can be actually relaxed about.
Oh.
because yes, we are satisfied with this one. I think we managed to did this one very good. I actually think we do some mistakes, have to make some tweaks from time to time, but this one was very good, despite of all this RPF outrage.
Indeed. So you are no real big changes planned in that sense then.
Well, as you understand, any impactful change of skill tree means full crew respect once
Indeed.
again.
Indeed.
And while we are absolutely not against giving these respects generously to whole server, actually, the first time we did it, it was treated very positively, like, wow, respect for free, very nice. Then it got worse because people who have huge collections of ships and many captains, they're very annoyed by the need to respec every time. This is why we try to balance this second edition of skill tree as much as we can, and for now we see that we managed to hit the target, that there are some really different loadouts, much more variety in the new skill tree. There are no some overpowered skills, and actually there are some situational skills like RPF, like torpedo acceleration, that you probably won't take on all your favorite ships. But on the other hand, I think the majority of skills are quite useful.
Indeed. It's certainly better than the old build where getting a 15-point concealment expert captain instantly was the only thing that mattered. Anyway, moving on.
I will just jump in again. What do you still have against RPF actually?
It kind of kills all dynamic play in any sort of competitive setting, which is why I don't enjoy it. Flanking tactics and such are really not, well, they don't work in ranked at all because it's pretty much mandatory for both destroyers in ranked or in competitive teams to run RPF because it gives them so much information.
So you encountered RPF and ranked often?
Well, this is competitive. I ran it myself on my Shiratsuyu when I played ranked this season because, well, it also gave a ton of information in solo ranked as well. Well, you could basically get away with getting a free cap since you knew that there was no one there. You could play recklessly in ways you can't otherwise because of the additional free quotation mark free information you're being given.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my point because I was running it on, mostly on my Shiratsu in ranked as well, and it actually did help me in flanking because, well, I can avoid the big bets, DD hunters and.
Indeed, but then again, if the DD hunters run it as well, then life becomes very, very hard.
Well, I'm very happy to live in Russian meta because playing on my Shiratsuyu in ranked battles, I was never RPF'd, not a single time. And then I actually got RPF'd on my Grozovoi in random battles, yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, and it really had an impact for me. But I actually encountered very, very rarely. But on the other hand, again, we're returning to this issue you mentioned, that competitive environment
Are different. They're
is
yeah.
different, and we need to actually think about it more, because we want the game to be healthy and enjoyable in all environments. We cannot just abandon competitive and only care for random battles, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So that's an interesting topic for probably a separate discussion or for some thoughts.
Moving on about different game modes. In World of Tanks, players have the option to deselect which battles modes they wish to engage in. Is there any plans for warships to implement the same system? Because, for example, Epicenter and Bastion weren't exactly that positively received. And, for example, I personally really dislike standard battles and would love to be able to deselect those. Is there any plans to give the players this option?
Right now, we are more inclined to remove the unliked modes, because why have them in game? Yes, it took us quite a long time to remove Bastion. Sorry for that, but we needed to be sure, because moving in and out is not very good practice. It's better to be sure and to make some meaningful conclusions for the future. But right now, actually any option to turn on or off any modes will really result in larger queues, and actually our matchmaking will be worse. As for standard battle, well, I personally can agree with you. I don't enjoy it either. And actually, we were going to remove it completely, but our research that we did specifically for this case indicated that, unfortunately, for me personally, I think, well, there is quite large group of players that enjoy this mode. Probably it's connected with World of Tanks legacy, and I'm meaning on all regions, not only on Ru region. There is World of Tanks legacy, and people just used to this concept, and they enjoy it greatly. Well, it's not the time to remove it completely, but we try to minimize its impact, because we think that domination is probably the best mode.
Indeed.
And Epicenter has some issues, but it's kind of perspective mode that can be improved, because we actually wanted to improve Bastion as well, but then we understood that our improvements are too small, and the concept needs to be reworked completely. So this is why I removed it. And as for Epicenter, probably it's not as bad as you actually think, but it's your personal opinion.
Yeah, well, honestly, the value of Epicenter, this kind of leads into my next question. Epicenter is very map dependent, and some of the higher tier maps aren't exactly popular. For example, Tears of the Desert, which happens to be an Epicenter map. Are you aware of some of the criticism aimed at the very open maps like Mountain Range and Tears of the Desert, and these very, very open maps that have very little cover, Okinawa, such maps?
Yeah, our team of level designers usually requests much feedback from community, I mean forums and so on, and they also normally try to squeeze some questions about maps in surveys, because obviously community feedback is very important, especially from experienced players who know the tactics and so on. But we also need to make some quite broad surveys to cover the most part of audience as well, who do not visit forum. We are aware of several issues, and I think it's been quite a long time we did not release any very new improvements for existing maps and modes. I think we'll do it in some time.
Okay. A question here about cruisers. A common complaint is the inability to really kit out your consumables before a fight. You pick Hydro, you end up against the carrier, you're quite helpless. You pick defensive AA, there's no carrier, you feel a bit useless. Some of the suggestions have been adding an additional consumable slot and other similar ideas. Is this something you are aware of, that this is a frustrating issue for many players?
We are aware of this idea in the community. We also heard some idea about choosing actually carrier loadout before the battle and so on. Right now we're more inclined to try to make all builds work in most battles than to give this option, really. For example, we are not satisfied with that air carriers are not present in all high-tier battles. We would like them to be more consistently present, and we hope to increase their popularity by changing and improving them. And this will be good for carriers, and at the same time, this will be good for ships that try to spec in AA, and then they will have something to shoot down. This is what our general direction probably goes right now.
Okay. Is there any plans to further incentivize team play in random battles? For example, rewards for smoking up allies, or providing defensive AA for allies, even if you don't shoot down planes? Blocking caps from being captured, like just physically blocking them by being in the cap, and such things. Team play focused plays. Is there any plans to reward players more for this?
Blocking the caps is rewarded.
Oh, okay.
Actually. Yeah, actually, the more time you spend blocking it, the more you are rewarded. So it is counted in the rewards.
Oh, I didn't know. It doesn't show, I think, anywhere. In the
yeah, we are not showing the immediate implications of your actions for economy. We are showing like ribbons, damage, and so on, but we're not showing that you get 5 experience for doing this. We don't do this. It's out of our concept, but it is rewarded. I think we actually made an article on economy several months ago where I tried to describe all activities that are rewarded, and some of the team. Actually, some of the team-dependent and team play activities are not rewarded. Like you mentioned, smoking your allies. It is not rewarded in any way right now. So I think we still have some work to do here. But actually, it's very difficult to determine whether you really helped someone by smoking him or not. The challenge of some of these activities is that shooting down a plane or taking potential damage or actually blocking a cap is obviously a good thing. You can reward player without any doubt. And as for some other actions, they are more situational, and it's sometimes very difficult to determine automatically whether you was helpful or not helpful. But we definitely will think about it. And as for other team play aspects, we probably mentioned radio commands with you. I think it's quite important to have meaningful and useful quick communication on battle for team play, and we'll be working on it, and I hope we'll issue some kind of improvement pack of these radio commands with new features and cool stuff that you'll be able to utilize. I think for now this is it about team play in random.
Okay.
Yeah, just from the recent ranked, I have to say that I see where Phil was going with that it's hard to see when smoking up allies actually helps, because there was more than one battle when just everyone dropped smoke and nobody spotted, so then our team cannot shoot at anything, and obviously the enemy team started torpedo spamming the huge cloud of smoke.
One common suggestion has been giving a percentage XP based on damage dealt from people who are in your smoke. That way you smoke someone up, they deal damage, you are rewarded because, well, you helped him in dealing this damage, so to say.
Well, it depends on situation, because if you, what actually my personal experience, what I often do in destroyers when I want to help someone, I see, for example, some guy in need of under fire and I want to help him, I smoke him up, and then I go out of smoke and spot for him. And when I do that, actually, I got the economic rewards for spotting damage, because if he sees his targets only because of my help, I will get the rewards for spotting damage, and he'll be sitting in my smoke. But actually, I think it worth considering. So we'll think about it.
Indeed. Campaigns. Will the current campaigns be ended when the new ones begin? Are there any plans on new ones? Both people who are moving along very fast have already completed it, and people who are not moving along very fast and are still doing theirs have been asking about this one.
These two current campaigns we have, they were designed to be permanent in the game, so not you, but I think players cannot worry. They have plenty of time to complete them. They can whatever time they want, and they will be presented new campaigns this year. We are planning on couple of interesting events, and new campaign is one of them. But I think I won't spoil the surprise for you here. As for completion, current completion, quite a lot of people actually completed both campaigns, and obviously Shinonome is quite nice ship, and people really tried to get her. I think another point is that this campaign for new players, it was actually not very educational. Maybe it helped a bit, but it's more about some funny bonuses for new player who just engaging in the game. But we're making separate. Actually, we're making separate tutorial right now, trying to design adaptive tutorial for new players. We'll see how it plays out, but we actually are very excited about it because we need to do it, and we want player base to be more aware of tactics, mechanics, and so on, to be better in the game. So we are working on it.
Well, tutorial is certainly something I can support if it means better overall skill level. Moving on, Kitakami has been spotted in both trailers and in recent patch notes. Is the ship making a glorious return?
Well, sometimes even we want to troll.
Is that the answer I'm gonna get? Wow, so many disappointed people.
Well, we would like to introduce the ship because we like it too, but it's like very chaotic impact on the game. So
Indeed.
not yet.
I personally don't want it back at all, but I know there are people who do.
We're not morally ready for this.
Any additional information regarding the high school fleet collaboration that was mentioned by Wargaming Japan?
No, not additional information, because obviously when we're ready, we'll make a quite interesting announcement and you'll see all the details.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, we are not ready.
Finally, the last question that I have prepared, are there any plans for any new game times? Even though Bastion didn't exactly capture our hearts, are the players in general do love seeing new modes to test out?
As for new modes, we are pretty excited for cooperative, because as we stated before, we want cooperative to be interesting and not to be just a copy of random battles with low rewards. So right now we are testing several cooperative mods internally, and we hope that players will be able to engage in these modes in several updates. Probably random players or together with friends to have some challenging and very intensive battles with our, mechanical friends.
Oh, are they're meant to be challenging then, these new cooperative ones?
Well, we would like them to actually to have several levels of difficulty, because some people still prefer just to casually shoot and blow things up in cooperative. Okay, it's good for us, no problem. If they want to do it, well, why don't let them? But for example, some experienced players probably would like to see some really challenging missions that they will have to complete and get some honor and reward for that. And this is what we are working on currently.
Okay.
I would say the cooperative has one big advantage, that we can do scenarios that are stacked against players there, because if we compare, for example, the reception for our Halloween mode with reception back in the time for historical battles in World of Tanks, basically it seems that players don't really mind being in an unfair battle as long as no one else is getting advantage out of it. So if it's unfair against the computer, it's okay. If it's unfair against other people, it's not okay. So
yeah, that sounds very accurate, actually.
Absolutely. We hope that cooperative modes in future will be a home for some very popular ideas in the community that just won't work in PvP. Well, they can work in PvE, hopefully.
Indeed. But that was actually all the questions I had prepared for this, and well, that was honestly all from me. Thank you very much for volunteering or showing up for doing this, Subactivian. I think a lot of people will want to hear these answers, I assume.
Thank you for these questions. I actually enjoy working with community, and I'll be happy to repeat it sometime later.
Yeah,
and
I assume
I
Reddit is gonna be, there are gonna be a lot of more questions for you on Reddit.
Oh yeah. There are always more questions in Reddit.
That is true. That is true.
One thing, you had several suggestions during the stream, so if you care to just put them together, then send them to Luke or to me, and we will deliver them.
Roger, I shall do that. If I can remember what all I suggested, I shall do that.
And also for me, I've been back for half an hour, but I decided to stay quiet. Thank you very much, guys. Both Flamu and also Phil, and of course Marek for taking notes.
Roger.
Sorry, we're all very busy right now. It's hard to be at too many places at once. I'm sure you can understand.
Yeah, we are
Oh,
considering a cloning project, but don't tell anyone.
Anyway, if there was nothing else, that's all from me. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and we'll probably hear from each other soon in the future.
Bye bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.